Yeah, it's so good to be recording again.
I know.
Although one of the hottest days of the year. So
one of the hottest days of the year. We're so glad that we're stuck inside with the window closed right now. It's warm. But even though it's warm, it's Pride Month.
Yay! Oh,
So
yes, Pride.
It's June.
All about the gays.
When is it not?
I love the slogan that's been going around that says, wishing all the homophobes a very uncomfortable month. I mean, I just wish them like a very uncomfortable life, you know, in general.
Rather than month.
Yeah. But just to have all the Pride merch and all the Pride rainbows everywhere, just in their face. Oh, that's great.
It's just nice when you walk into Co-op and there's loads of rainbow flags everywhere.
Yeah.
It's a little bit reminiscent of being in lockdown again. But
oh yeah, of course, because like the NHS adopted the rainbow.
NHS stole our rainbow.
I mean,
the rainbow is hard. Rainbows are gay. Sorry, Jesus.
Sorry, Jesus. So welcome to another episode of Femme Futch.
With Rhi Rhi and Helen.
Yeah, I'm Helen, and I identify as a cis white lesbian woman, and my pronouns are she, her. Today I'm wearing a Woman Up t-shirt. Yeah, this t-shirt I wore at Pride the first time I went, so it's kind of like, I love the t-shirt. My mate Vicky got it for me, and it's just got a lot of memories associated with it, so I thought I'd wear it today.
It's nice. I'm a bit boring today. I've just got a plain little, I say plain, it's sparkly.
Yeah,
sparkly pink little crop top and some cycling shorts because it's boiling. A little bit of jewellery, little headband. Oh, my friend made me this headband.
Oh, it's really pretty.
One of my friends that I went to university with, and she now works at a bridal store.
Oh,
and then so she makes accessories for them now. So thanks, Ashlyn.
Nice. Looking great.
Little headband there.
And how do you identify?
Oh, I identify I'm a cisgendered white woman, also a lesbian.
Also lesbian. As we've said before in other episodes, it's kind of a theme of the podcast, isn't it? It wouldn't really work.
If you haven't guessed, we are gay.
But yeah, today we're going to be talking all about Pride because it's June. This episode's coming out in June,
it is.
Even though it's the end of June. But I think for Pride, especially in the UK, it's like all summer long. Like I never actually realised June was the month.
The official
Pride
month.
Because what? Leeds is in August.
Yeah,
beginning
Leeds
of August.
is August. Sheffield's in July.
Manchester's at end of August, like August bank holiday. So it's kind of like, it's just all summer, like a gay summer.
And there's already been some in June already.
Yeah, there's been loads. Yeah. Oh, but Birmingham was in May. On the bank holidays. I think people do it on the bank holidays.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. And also they often do it
days to Pride.
More days to Pride. Yeah, which leads us on to where Pride started.
Yes.
Yeah. Because Pride, you might have seen before, or on the internet, a lot of people say like Pride is a protest because it started as a protest. Where did it start?
1969.
1969, and it's Stonewall. And so I never actually heard of Stonewall. Back in, 2018, 2017, I remember someone at work mentioned Stonewall. And I just had never heard of this term, and I was just like, what does that mean? What's Stonewall?
Yeah.
And they were like, what do you mean you don't know what Stonewall is? That's where Pride began. That's where gay liberation began and all started back in the 60s. And I was just like, oh, I have no idea. Kind of looked away and then felt a bit like, why don't I know about that? But then it's something that I didn't learn it in history.
No. Well.
Yeah.
Why would we? Why would we learn about gay people and gay things?
We should though, because it was incredibly important. It was Stonewall was when, or the Stonewall riots was where it all began.
Yeah.
So the day it all started, it was the day of Judy Garland's funeral. Yeah. Now Judy Garland played Dorothy in Wizard of Oz. She's kind of
big gay icon. It was called Stonewall because the place where this took place, where the riot took place, was the Stonewall Inn in New York.
Okay.
And that's where the name came from.
That makes sense.
And it's also a charity now, if you want to have a look at Stonewall, the charity. If you do want to find out more about Stonewall itself as well, another podcast that we listen to called Safe Space, they do a really good episode about it, which they've released this month for Pride Month.
They do.
So definitely check that out if you want to know more about Stonewall.
They do. They go into the people who, the trans women who were sort of pivotal, the drag queens who were there at the riots, and because they're pivotal. They're the ones who started it, and kind of fought back against the police. That led to then the gay liberation movement. So that's why it's so important that trans people are so much in the heart of the LGBT like
Community.
movement and pride and community, exactly, because they were the ones who were right there at the beginning
with us, starting
with us. They were fighting for gay people, they were fighting for lesbians, they were fighting for bisexuals. Like,
yeah,
I feel like gay people are forgetting their history,
yeah,
or not understanding their history,
yeah,
and how pivotal like the role they played at
Yeah.
the start. We wouldn't be where we were today without trans women. So I saw something recently that it was only a few weeks ago. One of the lesbians we follow, a YouTuber called Shannon Beveridge, she's released a merch range which says, "Are you a friend of Dorothy's?" And what I love about this is like it's a really subtle thing.
it's like an inside joke with the gays.
It is an inside joke, because back in the day when it was very much illegal to be gay, I think it was mainly between gay men, but it must have been between lesbians as well, that you would go up and ask someone like, "Oh, are you a friend of Dorothy's?" And gay people knew that as a code to being like, "Yeah, I am a friend of Dorothy's," and then you'd be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, so am I."
And
then that was like, "Oh, we're both gay."
the relevance of Dorothy is
The relevance of Dorothy is the fact that Judy Garland played Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, which I really love. I think it's just a really kind of subtle reference and
it's like the
language
purple handkerchiefs as well.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
Gay men used to have like the little purple handkerchiefs in their back pockets or in their... And purple was like the colour of letting people know that you might be gay.
I love that. I love those like that hidden language.
Yeah.
And I feel like it was often gay men had to have this because they were the ones who were sort of getting beaten up the most. You know.
Yeah. They were not necessarily. Well,
facing-
they were more in immediate danger necessarily.
Yeah. So since then, Pride has kind of developed into a celebration, street party.
Yeah,
There's
more
some-
of a party and celebration,
100%.
isn't it?
There's
Rather
certainly
than a protest.
massive ones.
Although it is still a protest, but it's more about us coming together now, being supportive of each other, having big parties in the street and just letting everyone know that we're here to celebrate and be proud. Some of the prides are really, really big now, like Manchester Pride
Huge.
is massive. I've not been to Manchester Pride because to me it's a little bit
I've
commercial.
heard that the route just takes so long. Like if you're standing there for a good hour and a bit.
Yeah.
And it's also you have to get tickets to get into the gay village.
Tickets, and then they corner out all the streets. You can only get in if you've got a wristband. Birmingham Pride, I went to Birmingham Pride once, and that was a little bit like that. They had certain areas of the city like cornered off, and you could only get in if you had your wristband.
Makes sense.
And then they as well they have music on. As in like quite big performers. It wasn't big performers at Birmingham.
was it that?
It was
That's
like
Club 7. They always get rolled.
It was like someone from Steps. It was like two
Steps?
people from Steps. They did a set, and there was like another.
Jerry
I don't even know
Halliwell.
who played someone like that. I don't know. No, I feel like if it was Jerry, it would have been bigger.
Maybe, yeah.
But no,
I'm
someone
just trying to
from
like
Steps.
insert like gay icons and
Yeah.
like gay pop stars.
But Manchester, that's even bigger than Birmingham. Birmingham was too like corporate for me, so I don't think I'd like Manchester.
Yeah.
But like you understand why. But like they had Ariana Grande.
Really?
The other year, Manchester
Wow.
Pride.
So it's like a whole
massive.
festival,
It's
isn't
like
it?
yeah,
Yeah,
but the tickets are so expensive because they have such big artists play. So we don't go to Manchester.
See, I think
it's too corporate. But
I love that some prides have evolved into that, and
Yeah.
like they've evolved into these really big events, these big festivals. But
yeah,
but part of me feels like, okay, well, are they definitely all gay people there, or there's going to be a lot of straight people who are just like fans of these
fans
artists,
of that artist. Yeah,
and you kind of lose it a little bit. I
yeah.
think. So in Leeds, they take over like the whole city centre, and the route is kind of like starts in the city centre and then goes all the way around and then down to the gay area of Leeds city centre.
Rainbow Street.
Rainbow Street, exactly. And yeah, my first experience of Pride was in 2019.
Nice.
And I'd never been to an event before because obviously I was straight back then. Little did I know that it was for me. I went in 2019 and I was actually in the parade, which was quite cool. I was just walking.
Such an ally.
I mean, yeah, just there with my Woman Up t-shirt.
Closeted ally.
Closeted ally. I know. It was such a great environment. I felt so kind of like, it was so happy. There was so much joy. There was just so many people like fully expressing exactly who they are, which is phenomenal to see. And I was wearing this Woman Up t-shirt with like some rainbow leggings. Felt great. I had a load of glitter on my face. And then someone shouted to me like, Woman Up, like some lesbian. And honestly, it made me be like, oh, yeah, Woman Up. And I don't know, maybe that was like the beginning of my awakening.
Came to Pride,
Yeah.
became gay.
Became
This
gay.
is what the people at church are scared of.
I know. I mean, it's ridiculous though, isn't it? Like, I was already gay. I just didn't know it yet.
And
But
it's like, well, if you're scared of it, church, then don't turn up to Pride, because a lot of people do.
yeah,
And they shouldn't.
I do like the way that there's often a bit in the parade where there's like a church group who are all like, we welcome the gays,
Oh.
and it's just kind of like really refreshing. It's like,
Yeah.
yes, religion like can accept gay people.
Yeah.
And but yeah, what was your first experience of Pride?
I think like my first official Pride was Leeds Pride as well. So I went one year, it sort of fell on one of my friend's birthdays, and then so we always tend to do something on her birthday. But it was like the week before my birthday as well. So we're like, we'll have a joint birthday, we'll all go to Pride. So that was good. And
So
we
good.
all dressed as a different colour of the rainbow.
I remember seeing
And then we
this.
all like
Oh my
stood
God.
in order, so with the little rainbow flag. Which was cute. But I had to be purple because there's not really pink.
I
But
mean,
that's fine.
right, I would struggle
put in
with
the
like
effort.
the colour because like I don't have many
wearing
colours.
all of one colour, yeah.
But oh, that was so cool.
Yeah,
I
so
love
that was good. That was good. We had a really good time.
Yeah. Were you out then? Yeah, you must have been.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I also went with like my first girlfriend as well. She came with us.
But then last year we went together
We did.
with our
We
partners
had
and some
the
friends.
best
as
time.
well.
We went for my birthday as well. That
Yeah.
was like what we were doing for my birthday. So a few of my friends came as well. And then we also went to see one of my friends, Femina. She was in her performing with her steel pan band.
Yeah, that was so much fun.
So we went and saw
So
them
random.
play.
But like it's just so much. There's so many people everywhere, obviously.
Everywhere,
And
just in the street,
yeah.
like.
So researching like sort of more local prides that we were thinking about, like which ones we should go to. I found one in Hebden Bridge.
Yeah.
Now Hebden Bridge is a
Home
little
of the lesbians.
home of the lesbians. Like, I mean, not officially, but like,
No, there's
kind
just
of-
a lot there. There's a lot there.
yeah. There. I mean, I feel like I need to move to Hebden Bridge.
Have you heard that there's literally some properties in Hebden Bridge that men aren't allowed to step foot on?
What?
So
No.
it's a rumour apparently.
A rumour. Okay.
I think I heard
That's
this rumour
hilarious.
through a girl that I dated, but who
That's
was
so
from
funny.
Hebden Bridge, who was also a lesbian.
Amazing.
Well,
I mean,
dunno.
so Hebden Bridge
But-
is a like town in Yorkshire, isn't it? It's a
Yeah.
gorgeous town.
Yeah.
It's in this beautiful valley. It always
Yeah.
floods because it's like right down at the bottom.
Literally on the bottom.
But they do a week-long Pride.
Yeah.
With loads of activities and
Of
loads of
course they do.
things.
It's
And
the biggest thing that's happening in their year.
I mean, yeah. I think I'm gonna try and go because obviously.
Let's go. Let's go to
lesbian.
Hebden Bridge.
We should.
We should. We'll go to Hebden Bridge Pride. We'll let
Yeah.
you know what it's like.
Definitely.
So, generally when you're at Pride as well, sometimes you might see some people protesting. It does happen
Yeah.
still, unfortunately. I'm sure it happens a lot more in America
I'm
than it
just
does
thinking
here in
that.
the UK. It's not as bad.
Yeah, I've seen
I'm
a
sure
few.
it's not.
There's quite a few influencers I follow who have been going around prides, and it's only like middle of June. And they've already been to a few, and there are people like with like Bible signs or like Bible verses, and they're preaching like like being gay is a sin and stuff like that, all that horrible negativity.
Yeah.
And they're standing there with their placards, and most of the time they just get ignored or moved
Yeah.
on. And I think for Pride events, because the event organisers will have that control over the space, they can hopefully move them on.
Yeah. They're allowed to kick people out of certain areas, so
But yeah,
at least it's that.
I don't think I've ever seen protesters, but then I haven't
I
really.
think there
been
was
to many
one year at
prides.
Leeds Pride when we walked past and there were some people from a church. They weren't like that bad, they just had the placards out and they were just like, Jesus loves you, turn away from sin. And we were all just kind of like, I've really not got the right crowd here.
I think in the face of protesters, you have to just make sure,
Be
just
safe.
yeah, safety
just-
first.
Yeah.
And
If you can, ignore them. Because the only reason they're there is because they want your attention and they want to upset you. So if you ignore them,
they want
it's a
that
wasted
reaction, don't
journey
they?
for them, yeah.
100% wasted
Just
journey.
don't give them a reaction, just ignore them. Keep yourself safe.
Yeah, and I think particularly at prides, obviously you're going to be surrounded by so many people. I guess as a first pride, what you would do, if you've never been to a pride before, just obviously make sure you go with some friends.
Yeah. Go with people that you feel safe and comfortable with.
Yeah.
Go with people that you all look after each other.
And then kind of know what you're going to do. Try and aim for maybe some bars or local places. If you can pre-plan where you're going to go, or
you might want to get tickets to a certain show, or
good idea.
gig that's happening at a certain time in the day.
But because there are so many people, you have to be like kind of careful.
Yeah.
You don't lose anyone.
Yeah.
I think the whole city is usually going to be celebrating that weekend.
Yeah.
If it's the Pride, if you're in Manchester, if you're in Birmingham or Leeds or whatever. So even if you're not actually in like the gay bars, like just go elsewhere, because you can still enjoy your Pride elsewhere in the city.
Like it's nice in Leeds because there's a few bars around there that we know, which are more like rock bars rather than gay bars, but because we know a lot of people in that scene, we'll just pop up there.
We'd rather go there. And the thing is, Pride is not actually for everyone in the sense of like, if you don't like crowds, if you don't
like crowds, if you don't like drinking,
noisy,
if you don't
like loud noises,
really loud music, then like it might not be for you.
Yeah, even if you're gay, it doesn't mean, if you don't go to Pride, it doesn't mean that
you're not celebrating or being proud.
Yes, and it doesn't mean like it doesn't validate you or anything, because it's just, for some people, like people love it, but that's like people who love those kind of events.
Yeah.
If you don't love it, like just have your own celebrations, have friends round or have some drinks in the garden, or just celebrate by kind of,
you could go see a film you want to see or something.
Yeah, exactly. Self-care.
Yeah.
All about the self-care.
Get a new book if you want.
Exactly.
Buy a gay book. Pride.
Reading all the gay books at the moment. But I think it's really key, because obviously Pride is such a massive thing, but it's not
for everyone.
Cup of tea.
No.
It's so good. It's just it's such a great atmosphere.
Yeah.
And I can't believe I've never really been before, but like it's totally not like, I wouldn't have gone before, because it's as a straight person, it's not for
you're
me.
invading.
Yeah. I think that's important, really, because you were saying about
knowing
allies.
whether it's appropriate for you to be at Pride or not.
Yeah, because ultimately it's for gay people. It's for it's for our expression of love, and for us to have a party.
Yeah,
and
have a celebration.
It's not really for allies. Like there isn't a straight Pride.
Well, every day is straight Pride, because you've not been repressed for being straight. That is the point.
Literally. There's nowhere in the world where it's illegal to be straight, so that's why there's not a straight Pride.
No,
and
it's you really don't need straight Pride, because you're allowed to live your life the way you want to without being harmed. So, being an ally at Pride. So if you are someone who's straight, maybe cisgendered, if you just aren't gay or aren't part of the queer community, but you want to go to Pride, should you go?
That is the question. Should you go?
Should you go?
You've got to go with the right intentions.
Yeah.
And arguably, I'd say go with other gay people.
If you haven't been invited to go by one of your gay friends or someone in the queer community, I would question why you're going.
Yeah,
because
completely.
it's you can show up and support your gay friends by telling them that, and listening to them on political views, or standing up for them in public when you are together, rather than going to celebrate a festival, which is celebrating things which might necessarily not be for you.
Yeah,
so
that's important.
It's about the way you go about it. If you've been invited by friends, go along with them, be respectful. You've got to understand that you're now in someone else's safe space.
Yes.
And it's really important that you don't make anyone feel uncomfortable.
I think that's crucial, and that's really important. And I think, like, as someone who went to their first Pride as an ally, I thought I was. Little did I know I was meant to be there. But I went with two other people who were very much allies, and we went with a company. We were kind of invited. I felt it was a weird kind of feeling for me, because I was very much like, this is not for me, but this is also really, really fun.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. But as you say, I think it's first and foremost, like, question why you want to go to Pride, because there are so many events all
that
over the year. So many festivals.
Any day of the year, literally.
There's enough gays. We know how to party.
We do.
So obviously you talked about lots of companies who join the parade.
Yes.
I think they pay for float, or pay for to be part of the
you always
parade.
see like the big ones, don't you? Like there's Barclays do it, the Co-op do it,
Sainsbury's.
like all the phone companies, all the supermarkets.
Yeah, I think a lot of them actually like sponsor the event, so they do put a lot of funding into it as well.
Yeah, they do, which is good, which they should, because they put funding into football, so they may as well put funding into the quiz as well.
there's so many companies who kind of, they'll exploit the fact that it's Pride and they can whack a rainbow on all their merchandise and sell it.
Pride has just become an event, hasn't it? It's like part of a season. Like it's just
Valentine's Day.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Valentine's Day. Release everything with hearts on it. On Pride Month, they're going to release everything with rainbows on it.
Yes.
So I think when it comes to buying merchandise, Pride merchandise, I think you just have to be really considerate of who you're buying it from. So as well, not just with Pride merch in general, just in general, go for more independent people, support independent people if you know them personally and you like what they're doing. Like, make sure you support them when you can. And when you come into sort of buying things for Pride, if you make sure you have a look for more independent people, especially queer people, like obviously if it's for Pride, you should be supporting
queer-owned businesses.
Queer-owned businesses.
Yes. One thing I wanted to touch on that's happened this year is it's in America. I feel like I get so much American media news, but it's the shop Target.
Yeah.
Now, America, like just recently, they've passed over they proposed over 500 anti-trans and anti-gay bills across the country. So there's a lot of kind of like LGBT hate. There's a lot of books that are being banned. There's a lot of sort of queer spaces that are being attacked. And Target released its range of Pride merch. It was fantastic. It was covered in rainbows. They had it at the front of the store. The people, the employees of Target were then getting targeted by sort of anti-LGBT people, and they were experiencing a lot of hate. They were experiencing kind of a lot of threats, and Target then moved all their Pride merch to like the back of the store. They actively moved, and it's just I feel like they've dealt with it so badly, because it's bad that their employees got this abuse. They should never get this abuse or harassment. No. But their employees and the shop and the company are kind of experiencing a fraction of what gay people actually experience
in their lives.
Every single day, particularly trans people. And I feel like they should have just dealt with it in a better way, and protected their employees from that hate and harassment and abuse. But also recognising that they should be standing with the queer community. They shouldn't be
like, oh, all right, we're not going to shove you in the closet at the back of the shop.
Literally, like, oh my god, the irony of like putting us back in the closet by like, oh, let's just push you to the back.
Just move it at the back, and then only the queer people will know it's there, and they'll go find it. But
quick, open this door, shove it in this closet, like. Oh my goodness, it's so bad, the way they've dealt with it. And so that's not to do if you're a company. And you're going to get, I don't know, I think if any company does put out their ranges or their Pride ranges, they are going to get some kind of...
You're going to get backlash
abuse or comments.
The crazy homophobic people, but it's about the way you deal with it.
I just think Target should have looked at the situation, increased their security. They should have then identified that as a problem and been like, well, that's not the people we want shopping at our stores. Yeah. So we, like, ultimately, those people can't shop at Target. I don't know. Maybe that's too bold a statement.
Yeah, but is it?
I know, well, quite.
Independent people. Go to independent sources to buy Pride merch.
Yeah. So now we've talked about Pride.
Yeah.
We wanted to kind of go back, like, kind of full circle a little bit to when we talk about allies.
Yes. Talking about how to be an ally.
Yeah, and we're going to talk all about questions.
Yes.
The inappropriate questions that straight people ask the gays. Now, these are questions that you said you've, like, received.
Oh.
Pretty much every one of them. I've only received a fraction of them, but I'm sure they're still to come. Can't
it's
wait.
Like every time you leave the house and you meet someone new that's straight.
And then they find out you're gay. They're like,
Yeah, that's when you...
Yeah, and I think it's really important to touch on this as our Pride episode, because if you want to be a good ally and if you want to support the queer community, this is what not to ask.
Yeah. Because please don't ask us this. It's inappropriate. There's so many questions. We actually wrote a list.
We did.
So, would you like to kick us off with the first one, Helen? What's the first question on the list?
So, lesbians, who's the man in your relationship? Oh my god. So much to unpack with this.
If we wanted a man, there would be one. The fact that there isn't one is the whole point.
It's literally the whole point. There's no man in our relationship, and stop looking at our relationship in kind of gender roles and comparing us to straight people, because we're lesbians. Like, gender roles don't exist.
No.
You know, they just don't. Like, yeah, we've talked about it in other episodes, haven't we? But there's no man in our relationship, and stop thinking that a man plays a certain role in a relationship, because men can play many roles in relationships.
And just because a man can do one certain thing, it doesn't mean a woman can't also bring the same qualities, especially in this day and age. We're not in the dark ages.
Hilarious.
Next question. Who is the top and who's the bottom? So, would you walk up to a complete stranger and ask them a really inappropriate question about their sex life? No,
so
you
just
wouldn't. So don't do it to a gay person.
Quite. Just to give a little bit of background on this question, if you've never heard of tops and bottoms, this is sex related, and a top is essentially the dominant person who's kind of giving, and the bottom is the like submissive person who's like receiving.
Yeah.
But it is a very intimate question, because it's literally like, what do you like doing during sex?
Yeah.
Like, hang on, I don't really want to answer that question.
It's almost like, but you're basically walking up to a lesbian couple and saying, who wears the strap on?
Yes, you really are. Another question is something like, have you ever been with a man?
Yeah.
And a lot of lesbians like myself like come out in later life, and I'm not necessarily a gold star lesbian, which means that you've never slept with a man. But it doesn't make me any less of a lesbian. It doesn't make you any less of a lesbian if we've been with the men in our previous relationships
Before we came out.
But you know, people associate, oh, have you ever been with a man? Oh, if you have, then you're not a real lesbian. Like, that kind of question is just, no, again, it's really intrusive, and you don't really know what you're talking about here, because our past doesn't necessarily define us.
Yeah, it's like when you get into a new relationship with someone, like, you can't be mad at them for something that's happened in their past. It's like saying it matters what happened to you in a previous relationship, and it doesn't. No. Like, you can go into your new relationship fresh and new, it's nothing to do with that, and as if some stranger could say to you, and thinks it's appropriate to say, you've been with a man, so therefore you are not lesbian. Who are you to tell them what they are and what they aren't?
I know, right?
And it's like, well, what do you say if that person then says, no, I've never been with someone from the opposite sex? And then you'll get the next question, which is, well, how would you not know if you haven't tried it? I had £1. I really wish I had £1. Like, we wouldn't need to do a podcast, Helen. I wouldn't need to have a job.
You'd be rich. I think that's also quite a problem with, obviously, femme lesbians like yourself, Rhi. Like, you're very, like... Straight passing, feminine presenting, so you look like you may be into men, but you're not. And and also how you look doesn't define you and your sexuality. You can look however you want, and it doesn't matter. But, oh, God, it's just... It comes back. You remember when we were talking about in a previous episode how lesbianism has never actually been illegal in the UK? It comes back to the fact that if there's not a man involved, it doesn't count as sex.
It's like the invalidation of it.
Yeah, so it's kind of, you have to test it, or like men think they're so good that they're going to turn you.
Yeah.
And like, please just get off your high horses.
I know.
It's pathetic.
Unfortunately we have tried and it's awful.
So, speaking of men, can I watch? That's another question. Can you watch what? Like TV?
Yeah.
No. Oh, no, sorry. That's what you mean. You mean, can I watch you have sex? Because, of course, lesbians are
just
a fetish.
Porn.
Or just
we are porn.
Yeah.
For men.
And
there's a reason we exist.
There's a lot of, like, lesbian porn that's kind of, like, not really accurate. And it doesn't...
It's male gaze lesbian porn.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for. The male gaze porn. Yeah. And that's what they think lesbians do, or like how they have sex.
Like, that's exactly how they have sex. It's a show for men.
By extension, can I have a threesome with you? Because again, like, for a man, like, to have two women, that's kind of like an ultimate fantasy. But it's kind of like, well, we don't really want you, so like, no. No.
Oh, the threesome one gets me every time.
Really?
It's just,
yeah.
It's just, like, the audacity.
He wants to get involved, Rhi.
Like, the audacity that they just think that we'd actually want them there.
Oh, God. I feel like these questions are mainly sex-related, because the next one is, so how do you scissor? Or how do you even have sex?
How does it work?
How does it work?
How does it work?
And again, I think we keep coming back to the fact that these are very intimate questions. They're just so intrusive.
I know.
Like,
It's
how do you
so
scissor? Well,
inappropriate.
Google is your friend. I just feel like there's no boundaries.
People think it's their right to ask you.
Yeah.
It's like it's your job to educate them. It's not my job to educate you how to be a better person.
Right.
Like,
there's YouTubers, there's Google, who will happily
people have
educate.
literally spent hours of their time creating things specifically to help you learn this.
Yeah.
So go out your way, do some learning for yourself as well, and learn how not to offend people.
Completely. And I think as a gay person, if you get these questions and if someone's starting to be really intrusive, you just have to set those boundaries and be like, sorry, I'm really not comfortable answering these questions, because
to a complete stranger.
Don't want to, especially if it's a complete stranger.
Which it usually is.
Yeah, it usually is. You have to set those boundaries, particularly when it comes to like sex and your sex life, because especially if you're a younger queer person, you might not have had sex, you might not have kind of like actually experienced anything like that yet. So it's not right for people to ask those intrusive questions when you maybe don't know, and that's obviously totally okay.
And like you shouldn't feel pressured to answer them as well.
What other questions what have you had maybe that are maybe like not sex related but it's still
inappropriate? So if it's not sex related, it's how did you come out to your family? Which I understand, it's a nicer question because it's not just someone completely random asking about your sex life, but it is, again, I mean, we've talked about it before, you always get asked, how did you come out, what did you do, like how did your family take it? And people do always ask you that because as a gay person you kind of expect it, but just consider if you were in a public place, at a party, at Pride, out with your friends, at a gig, wherever you are, and you meet someone who's gay and you automatically think, right, let's ask them how they came out.
Yeah.
Please don't.
No.
You would not like someone to ask you a really personal question which might be something that's very traumatic for them.
I was about to say, so many people's coming out stories are not good.
No.
They're not a positive experience.
No.
They might have been ostracised by their family, they might have been kicked out by their parents, they might have had a lot of abuse from their family, they might have kind of been disowned, like a lot of really, really extreme reactions, which hopefully they didn't have that reaction and it was like a bit like mine being
maybe it was okay, but you don't know that until you ask.
No.
So just consider what the answer could potentially be, because if you're on a night out and some random person, a friend of a friend that you've just met, has started off a conversation with you by, please tell me all about this potentially horrible experience of your life.
No.
It's just not what you want to do on a night out, is it? It's not what you want to do when you're trying to celebrate Pride. Like, you wouldn't like it if you were having the best night of your life and someone was like, please tell me about this really traumatic event that you had to do with your family. It's not going to put you in the mood to party.
No, 100%. Like we've talked about in previous episodes, like our coming out stories and talking about coming out, and it is really important to share. But we're sharing them on our terms, and on this podcast, we're like putting it out in. We both feel comfortable talking about the experiences, and it's not like a kind of sudden intrusive question being asked. So another question is, how are you going to have kids?
Yeah.
And this question is also problematic because we can't obviously have kids the natural way. It doesn't work. We have to go through either IVF or all these different processes, adoption, and there's so many ways that we can have kids.
A really good benchmark to have is like, if you wouldn't ask your straight friend that, don't ask your gay friend.
Great. I think that's a really good way of doing it, and a way of like someone could check themselves.
Yeah.
So we've kind of touched on all the questions we would be asked as lesbians.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of questions that the kind of trans and non-binary community of people experience and get asked that is kind of not relevant to us, because we are very much we're cis women, so we're not trans women, and we also kind of present as women, so there's no kind of confusion in our gender. But a lot of people who are trans or who are non-binary, they get a lot of assumptions. So obviously if someone comes out as trans or non-binary, they might get questions like, so you're gonna have surgery, or like, what are you gonna do about your genitals and stuff, like, oh my god, why would you ask someone about their genitals? Like, just I don't know, like,
completely inappropriate.
So inappropriate. Like, okay, yes, you might be curious. People can be trans and not have any surgery. Like, they
Yeah.
don't have to. If they are being, like, the way they present themselves doesn't involve surgery, then that's totally okay. It doesn't make them any less trans.
I think when it comes to just people who aren't necessarily used to being being out and around the queer community, like, you just have to consider what's appropriate and what's not. Like, you can't just walk up to someone who you might think is trans and ask what their gender was assigned at birth.
Yeah.
Or, like, why they're in this bathroom.
Yeah.
Or something.
You can't.
Just leave people alone.
Because there's so much about, like, obviously J.K. Rowling and kind of, like vilifying trans people and saying that, like, oh, well, men are just going to dress up as women and attack women in the bathroom. Like, there's literally been no cases of that. Like, it's not a thing. It's not. I get that that's a fear, because a lot of women fear men.
Yeah.
Like, and that's totally valid. But don't push that onto trans women.
No.
Especially trans women, who are the ones who often get this abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trans women are abused by men more than anyone else. Yeah. And, like, women aren't abused by trans people more than anyone else. No. That it's just not the facts.
It's like hitting downwards. It's kind of like, well, men are attacking women, so women will then attack gay people and trans people, and it's kind of, trans people are literally at the bottom.
Yeah.
And we need to protect them.
Yeah.
Because, like, protecting them will then have a ripple effect up
for everyone.
And protect everybody.
So instead of being offensive and asking really inappropriate questions, what you could do is ask appropriate questions. You can always ask someone who is in the queer community, how can you, as an ally, support the queer community?
So good.
That's a great question.
Because they'll probably have, like, loads of resources,
Yeah.
or kind of like, or even just a personal thing, being like, can you just stick up for me? Can you just make sure you,
if we're in public and someone is homophobic, then say that they're wrong.
Yeah.
And say, no, you're not right.
It's safer for you
Yeah.
as a straight person. And so it's like, straight people are probably going to listen to straight people more than they are going to listen to trans people or anyone from the LGBTQ plus community. Another question I think is really important is what your pronouns? Or like, how can I identify
How do you identify?
How do you identify? Exactly. So a lot of trans people or non-binary people will have a dead name, which is the name they were sort of born with or given, and it's not their name. It's a dead name.
It's what they used to identify as, that they no longer identify as.
Exactly. It's called dead naming because that name is dead. It doesn't define them at all. It's not them. So don't use it. But, it is hard to remember sometimes. You might mess up the pronouns, especially if it's they, them, and you're used to calling someone a she or he, that you just have to correct yourself quickly and move on. Like, don't make it a big thing, because don't also say, oh, I'm really sorry, because
that's just drawing more attention to it.
It is. And also, they shouldn't be forgiving you, they shouldn't have to give you that kind of like pardon, like, oh, don't worry about it. No, because it is
they don't have to reassure you after you make a mistake. Just move on from it.
Yeah, just, okay, you made the mistake, just work on it and do better for next time.
Yeah.
This episode's been fun.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
A lot in this episode. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride. So excited for this episode, and for to go to Pride Month.
Yes.
And
we're excited to start celebrating
for
Pride, go to events and everything.
Yeah.
But so we wanted to release this episode during June in Pride Month, just so we can say hello from us and Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
No matter what you're doing for Pride this year, be safe, be respectful. I hope you enjoy it, and keep being proud.